In our politics lead, the Trump administration is intensifying its fight against Harvard University. Now they say they are threatening to revoke Harvard's eligibility to even host international students, which could pose another potential economic hit to the Ivy League school after the threats of defunding. This as a group of students at Harvard University gathered on campus today in support of Harvard's leaders, rebuking the Trump administration's demands to enforce certain policies and to get rid of others. Let's bring in Laurence Tribe. He's a professor emeritus of constitutional law at Harvard University. Professor Tribe, thanks for joining us. So these funding cuts are already threatening critical academic research and potentially life-changing innovations, the university says. How long do you think Harvard can financially afford this standoff with the Trump administration, even with your huge endowment?
We're going to stand up for basic principles, for the rights of our students, for the rights of research, for the survival of the teaching hospitals, as long as it takes. We can outlast this bully. What we have discovered is that he is a combination of ineptitude, vindictiveness, lawlessness, and bluster. The people who cave to him and who make deals with him, the universities and the law firms who thought that if they paid his ransom, they would be safe, have learned that they're not safe. He comes back for more. That's the way it works. But because all of these demands, the attempt to take over essentially a private educational institution, to tell us what we can teach, to tell our students what they can say, what they can think, to tell law firms whom they can defend, those efforts are absolutely illegal. It's not even a close question. Judges across the spectrum are going to rule against Trump. We are going to prevail. And in doing so, we hope that we will give courage to others, because the only way to deal with a bully is to stand up to him, to stand up in solidarity and say, no, you will not dictate all of us. You will not control our lives. You will not control our thoughts.
So this began with a letter to the university talking about the need for Harvard to take some policy make some policy changes, getting rid of DEI, trying to make sure everything is merit-based, trying to make sure that there's more ideological diversity, clapping down on anti-Semitism on campus. But President Trump just wrote in a lengthy Truth Social post yesterday about Harvard a whole other criticism. Part of it reads, quote, Harvard has been hiring almost all woke, radical left idiots and bird brains who are only capable of teaching failure to students and so-called future leaders, unquote. And I wonder, as a legal matter, does that post undermine the president's case that this was based on policy changes that were actually in the interest of the country? Because what he's going after there is just, you're hiring Democrats and I don't like it.
Well, he always undermines himself. If you wait long enough, he will take every position required to show what an incoherent mind he has, honestly. He says that he is fighting anti-Semitism. It's just a fig leaf. We're fighting anti-Semitism, but he says Nazis are sometimes good people. He is not defending any value that is an American value. He is simply defending the value of being the boss of everybody. You know, when my kids were growing up, when they were very young, I remember one of the things that they would typically say, I'm sure other parents have heard this, you are not the boss of me. Well, I wasn't. But Trump wants to be the boss of everyone and everything. He wants to be the boss of the Federal Reserve, even though that will destabilize the dollar. He wants to be the boss of all of these law firms. He is not going to succeed in that. And even with a Supreme Court that is highly favorable to Donald Trump, that gives him total immunity from criminal prosecution, he's not going to get his way when it turns out that he can't do what he wants without the affirmative cooperation of judges. And we've seen with Judge Boasberg and Judge Zinnes that judges have had it. They are not going to go along with the efforts of this administration to abscond people and throw them into penal colonies in El Salvador. They're not going to go along, I'm confident, with his attempt to control thought and to censor newspapers and to censor CNN and MSNBC. He's going to lose those battles.
So just in point of clarification, and this is by no means a defense, what the president said was that there were very fine people marching alongside the Nazis,
yes,
not the Nazis per se. Just want to make sure that correction is there.
You can parse it pretty closely, but what is clear is that this is not a champion of diversity, tolerance, of freedom of religion. He wants to have as he has said from time to time, a Christian nation. He wants it all.
Professor
What
Tribe.
the framers had in mind was a nation where you could believe what you wanted, whatever God you believed in, not Christian nationalism or any kind of fascistic trope of the sort that Donald Trump is pushing.
Professor Tribe, always good to have you here. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. President Trump started this day writing on Truth Social that the termination of the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, quote, cannot come fast enough, unquote. That's an interesting comment. Does Trump actually